Hey, thanks for being here. This is Preston Murray. Today, what I have for you are some strategies for navigating the holiday season. This strategy was created by and is presented by my mother, Lois Ann Murray. Some of you may know, some of you may not, that my mother was who got me into the grief work I do, which she began after losing her husband, my father, Deck Murray, to pancreatic cancer in 2014. What she is about to share with you has a lot of wisdom and makes me personally thrilled to see where she's landed in her grief journey. If you enjoy the video or have any additional strategies that have been helpful or useful for you around finding peace during the holiday season, please drop a comment and let us know. I'm wishing you a peaceful holiday season, and now I'll hand it off to Lois Ann.
Do you worry about feeling sad at the holidays? Why is it do we feel sad at the holidays? Are there more losses and therefore more anniversaries in December? The answer to that in general is no. There's not more losses at the holiday, but there is a flood of stimulus in our lives that signal memories for us. In addition to a message that our lives should be overflowing with joy, there are just more sights and sounds coming at us from every direction we turn. So it is this hyper stimulus of lights and decorations and sounds and traditional aromas that can be very hard when we're feeling grief at the holidays. Many of us have also just had a cascade of losses at Thanksgiving due to the pandemic. Perhaps we weren't able to do Thanksgiving in our traditional way or gather with family or friends. And therefore, we're dreading Christmas more than ever, or Hanukkah more than ever. So, how do we find peace when we're sad, disappointed, angry, anxious, or frustrated? You know, over the years, I've collected a number of handouts with titles like this: How to Remember a Loved One at the Holidays, My Gifts to Me at the Holidays, Living with Loss While Others Celebrate. And each one has great advice. But for this discussion, which I hope you can use to kick off your own planning for the holidays and your own ideas for finding peace, I wanted to consolidate those flyers into the word peace. So I've laid out some steps for you to think about. My examples, though, however, are ones primarily from my own experience, those of a widow. I'm hopeful, however, that they can still stimulate your thinking and planning for the holiday. And we can share some ideas of how you've found holiday peace with different other examples of loss. So, thinking about the word peace. Plan ahead for the holidays. I encourage you to plan ahead. I think it's important to think about and realize that your normal routine will likely change whether you feel like celebrating the holiday or not. Businesses close or they have altered hours. Your work or school schedule may break. And clubs and groups you belong to often pause for a couple of weeks at this time of the year. So I suggest that you plan ahead how you want to spend your time. Make a wish list of what you actually want to do this year. Not automatically repeating your past holidays or trying to organize holidays the way you've always done them. And also, not how others expect you to do the holiday. Remember when you make your wish list, what you're wishing for this year doesn't have to be the same for future holidays. It's just simply this year. So, if you think you would enjoy putting up a Christmas tree, if you wish to do that, give yourself permission to do it. And if you don't wish to do that, also allow yourself to make that choice. If you want to put up a Christmas tree, you might also think about whether or not you want to drag out the same tree and ornaments you've always used, or perhaps you'd like to do that in a different way. And it's important to think ahead about how you will get a task that big done. Maybe you're going to need to rely on a friend or hire someone to help you. Send holiday cards if you wish to, but you aren't required to do your traditional family update holiday letter if that feels overwhelming. And if you need to skip cards this year, give yourself permission to do that also. If you usually find comfort in a religious service like Christmas Eve, but you find the traditional music and idea of attending a Christmas Eve service too overwhelming, you should consider looking for an alternative. Many churches offer a blue Christmas or a longest night. Some call it candle in the night service, or others sorrow in the season. Perhaps that would be more comforting to you this year. Also, if you're grieving a loved one at this time of the year, think ahead about asking another family member to handle the tasks or traditions that your loved one might have had responsibility for. Whether that's stringing holiday lights, or saying family grace, or carving a turkey, or reading the night before Christmas to children. If you think ahead and ask someone specifically to handle that responsibility this year, they're likely to feel honored to carry on that tradition for your loved one. And as I said, in closing on making your plan, also plan to ask for help or hire some assistance if your budget allows, so that you can complete your plan. Now, when I look at peace, the next letter is E. And I have a couple of E's here, emotions and energy. And you should expect them to fluctuate during the holiday season. And so I think it's important to think about resiliency. The holidays, even when you plan, can be very emotionally and energy draining. So think about scheduling time for rest. Also, try to avoid overindulging in food or alcohol. Strive to maintain your resiliency. In fact, this is good advice all year round. Think about how you feel when you're in your okay zone, when your energy is not so high that you're angry and frustrated, or not so low that you can't get out of bed, but that in between place where you feel okay. You feel like getting things done in the day and enjoying others. But it's hard to stay in that zone and maintain resiliency. So think about what helps you get back to that okay zone. Is it a walk in nature? Perhaps there's music that you respond to. Some of my friends schedule a massage or practice functional breathing to get themselves okay again. Yoga and meditation, exercise, all are wonderful ways. So plan to monitor your emotions and energy and practice returning to your resilient zone. I also want to remind you of what I remind myself, that even with planning, you may still have a grief outburst. And no apologies are needed for that. When others are uncomfortable, I simply explain to them that I am having sweet memories running from my eyes down my cheeks, and it's okay. Depending on your loss, it may not be tears, but it might be fear or an anger result, that emotion that you have. But but understand and be forgiving of yourself and work to get back in your zone. Last of all, with energy and emotion fluctuations, schedule time just for you, whether it's to cuddle up with a book or plan a nap, which I currently call a refresher, and put that into your schedule as well. We're to the A in peace. And with the A in peace, I like the word and remind myself to accept. I remind myself not to be a martyr, but to accept happy moments as they present. I allow myself to feel joy. Having a good time does not mean that you've forgotten your loved one. And accepting a happy moment is not forgetting that your holiday is different. It will never be the same without a cherished loved one, but accept that it can still be a wonderful time. I mentioned earlier accepting help from others. Be able to ask for it or accept it when someone offers it. I've also added recently my comfort with accepting invitations when others reach out to include me. And I have to admit, this was really particularly awkward for me because I was accustomed to going to dinners or movies or a party as a couple. Uncoupling and going as a single has been difficult for me. But think about accepting invitations and planning your strategy. When I accept an invitation to go to dinner with another couple, early on I explain my ground rules. After thanking them for including me, I also explain that my comfort is to pay my own way and to split the check at the end of the dinner like I always would have with my husband. Also, if you're accepting invitations, perhaps for a holiday party, think about how you want to feel comfortable with that. Early on in my grief journey, I would go with another couple. People would graciously call me and ask me, hey, can I pick you up and take you to the party? And that worked for me for a while, but I found that I didn't enjoy that anymore. I didn't want to sit in the back seat. That was making me feel really senior. I wanted the freedom to also leave a party when I wanted. So I finally got to a point last year, and this is a game changer for me that I want to share, is that I worked out a way to be able to accept a social invitation and accept it attending and arriving by myself. So I planned and approached the social invitation just like I might a work event. I planned ahead for my energy level. I often take a pre-party nap or refresher before an event. And I specifically take time to think about who might be at that gathering or party. And I double check names or associations so that I don't find myself struggling when I'm approached by a familiar face or a friend. When I don't have my wingman to whisper in my ear who that is or what their husband or wife's name is, I need to prepare ahead of time. Also, I know one of the things that keeps me from going is it's difficult for me to stand for a long period of time. So I thought about how do I do a party but ensure that I have a place to sit. I figured out that I need to be the first one to arrive. And here's what was great about doing that. I got a close parking place to the home. I didn't have to worry about, in winter weather, ice on the sidewalk. I was parked right outside their door. Also, the host has time to welcome you and show you around, offer and ensure you have a beverage. And you have a choice of where you decide to perch yourself in the social area. The best part was that then when others arrived shortly afterwards, they would see me and make a beeline to say hello. I no longer needed to be interrupting others who are already in a conversation when I arrive to say my first hello. That's a strategy that worked for me. It might not be right for you, but the idea of accepting joy, accepting help, and then accepting invitations is really the message I wanted to share with you, and use the P of peace for plan ahead. C, I've had to learn to create new traditions and rituals. And when we do this, sometimes they can be to honor the ones that have died. You know, I told you earlier that there's not more losses generally in December, but for me there is. I lost my mother, my mother-in-law in December, and my husband's birthday, and shortly afterwards, the day he died in January, all come at me at one time. So I have an opportunity to create new traditions to help me get through the holiday month of December. One of the traditions that I do is I set a place at the table for the loved one who's not with us. And if I give a holiday party, I also mention that that's for the loved ones of anyone else who's attending and visiting in my home. You know, in fact, I thought about how nice it is that my husband's fraternity brothers, when I joined them and their wives at dinner, they still order a non-alcoholic beverage, usually in O'Doul's, which is what my husband always liked. And then they set it in the middle of the table to remind us of Deck's presence and to honor him. I'm going to share with you another new ritual that I created as a way for you to think about what would work in your life. I have a friend, someone who became a widow about 7 years before I did. And we talked about the birthday of our spouses. And she shared with me that she continues to fix her husband's favorite food on his birthday, and to ensure that she has that favorite food just like she always did. In her case, it was chicken parm that her husband Mark always enjoyed. I thought about how does that apply to my situation. My husband Deck loved a steakhouse to celebrate his birthday. And so my children and I created a new ritual to carry on that tradition of celebrating his birthday. And so when possible, we go together to a restaurant. And we generally, if we can, go to the one that was his favorite and the last one that we went to with him. And although we're a group of 4, we ask for a table to be set for 5. And then as we sit and enjoy dinner, we talk about the past year, and we speculate and laugh about what Deck would have enjoyed most about the year. and what he would have been excited about and proud of with each of my children. This has become a wonderful tradition and ritual for us. Some more ideas to think about that might be more appropriate with your loss is think about if you have a keepsake from your loved one and consider making that a gift to a family member or friend. Make a donation to a charity in your loved one's name. Each January, I make a donation to PanCan, which helps to find a cure and hope for pancreatic cancer. Buy a favorite book and give it to a library, school, church, particularly people who may have lost a child. Find it comforting to think about this activity, sharing a favorite book with a friend who has children. Encourage your children to make drawings or cards that are inspired by their memories. And then last of all, it's often common for some type of theme to emerge during your grief journey. We hear about the transition and butterflies or dragonflies as symbols of life after death, and cardinals coming and reminding us of the spirit of the ones we lost. Whether this is a theme for you or not, you might have another theme that has emerged that always reminds you of your loved one. And whatever that symbol is, you can consider using that in your decorating. I often hang a cardinal in my Christmas wreath to remember the spirit of my husband. So there's many different ways you can approach creating new traditions and rituals in place of the ones that no longer bring you comfort. And as we get to the end of finding peace, we have another E. And I like to think about the importance of explaining my plans and my wish list with others. After I've taken the time to decide what I'm taking off my list and adding in new celebrations, I take time to explain my plan to those that care about me. And I encourage you to do the same with your family and friends. Now be prepared. Others might say, oh no, you should put up a tree. You should plan to make cookies this year. Oh, people will be disappointed if they don't get a card from you. You might get a lot of should yous. But don't let that force you into activities that you know you simply can't handle this year. And then plan your time with those that appreciate, understand, and respect your need for harmony. You don't need to add extra stress on top of your sadness by spending it with others who don't support your wishes. When you're explaining your plan, remember this is a good time to ask for that help that we talked about earlier. Whether, again, it's to get decorations out of storage or discussing a tradition you're hoping that they can carry on for you or your family. And the last one, as I think about explaining plans to others, is to encourage others to use your loved one's name. And the best way of doing that is using it yourself. I often talk about my husband as if he were in the other room. And I feel that this is a signal to my family and friends to be comfortable with doing the story. If I make Deck's favorite dish or I bring a German chocolate cake to Thanksgiving, I like to say, yeah, I chose this. It was Deck's favorite. I wanted to bring it today to remember him. Or if I do some fancy decorating or wrapping of presents, it's an opportunity to say my mother always fussed over the wrapping. So use your loved one's name and allow feeling comfortable with others doing the same. So we've come to the end of the word peace. P, plan ahead. E, understand your emotions and energy are going to fluctuate. A, accept help, accept happiness when it presents, and if you receive invitations, accept. Create new rituals and traditions to honor your loved one. And last of all, E, explain to others what brings you comfort. And so, in closing, I wish you peace over the holidays.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm so deeply thankful for my mother's wisdom that she shared with us here. I feel grateful to have these words to turn to and to be able to share with you. If you'd like more support on your grief, check out the grief page on my website, PrestonMurray.com. You'll see there's an option for a free grief consult call. I'd be happy to hear where you're at and see where I can help guide you. When the time is right for you, that option is there. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to this video. I wish you peace through this season, and I wish you peace today.